Yeah, welcome to Coffee and Cannabis. I'm your host, Eliza, and this is...
Corey, what up?
And you already know, we still in Vegas because we told you all month of December is the DICE Takeover, M4MM. We are their podcast partner here at their party in Vegas, and let me tell you, it is incredible. They also have incredible folks that work with them and work for them and advocate for all of us. Today, we have Miss Mariela Canabal. Please give it up. She is the Latin Outreach Director. Okay. So, as you guys all know, M4MM does tremendous work out here advocating for the cannabis community. But I feel like, you know, sometimes when we say minority, right? Everyone always sort of goes to, we must be just talking about African American folks, right? Mm-hmm. Black people. So I love that they have prioritized. I love that they have a veterans outreach person. Now they have, you know, like really touching all bases and amplifying all voices. So can you just tell us a little bit about what you do for the organization?
Yes. So as we all know, when Roz had the vision, she wanted to have a space for everyone that kind of looked like us. Us Latinos, you know, it's black or white, but we're kind of in the brown space, so we can fall either or. Yeah. And Roz created this platform for us to kind of amplify and find more people. Yeah. And now this year, we focused on pivoting and expanding and reaching out more into Latin communities. Yeah. Because the main focus that we have as an organization is community reinvestment. Yeah. And what does the people need? So whether it's being stakeholders or creating access or creating just financial literacy for our community. And it's great that now we have this platform that we could say, wait a minute, now we can bring in the black community, the brown community, and we can have more people like us represent us, making decisions, and that's where we'll see change. Because until we're not in those positions, you're not going to see anything, right? But now when we're in those positions, in large numbers, because everybody's doing their own thing in their state, it's like, oh wait, now we can really make a difference. Now they're gonna listen. So this year, we also kind of said, wait a minute, the biggest thing is outreach on all that root grass level. And what does that mean is like knocking the doors on the decision makers and saying, hey, this is where we are and these are our issues. So we did a lobby day in April and we were pushing regulation and reaching out. We knocked over like 200 doors. Most legislative members and people in Congress at the Hill, they had nobody over cannabis issues. They would ask like, well, what does it fall under? Is it like health? Is it like community development? Is it investment? Like, where are we? And it's like, yeah, we fall into everything. Check. So being able to say, hey, we can kind of be that guidance to show you what it should look like. Right. And that's important because we were mostly affected, and now we can create a pathway as to what it should look like. Yeah. And voice like, hey, this is how it should impact our communities in a positive way. So we made those connections. We rolled out in September. We attended both the Hispanic and Black Congressional Caucus. We made so many great connections on the policy side. And most important is that we had both sides. So it wasn't like, okay, just the Black community or Latino community. It was like, hey, it's all of us, right, and we're here about these issues. Right. And they listen because they don't know what they're doing over there. They're like, what is this? So they actually need people that are educated, that are being those leaders in their communities and our business owners and our experts in their field to kind of come together and educate. So we always say community education, but we have to educate also our decision makers and our leaders and kind of educate them on, hey, this is this industry and this is how we want it to look.
Yeah, we talk a lot on this show about education, and I you know, in just one of the last episodes, we had said that always comes up. in every, how you just said, like, we check all the boxes. Education pops up in every single one of those boxes because it's always, a lack thereof. What makes you motivated to do this sort of work? Like, what brought you to the forefront that you're like, I not only want to represent Latinos, but I want to talk about cannabis? Like, what drives you to talk about the plant like this?
It's really a passion. And for me, it was my grandmother. She fell right before Thanksgiving 4 years ago.
Okay.
And she had to have hip surgery.
Oh, wow.
And after her surgery, she was 85 already.
Oh, God bless her.
Yeah. And
seriously.
I was in Puerto Rico at the time. I flew into Florida. I was with her, and I had given her like gummies. So when her therapist, because after surgery, you got to start moving again. Right. So I would give her edibles before she started her sessions, and the therapist was like, wow, you're really moving. But my grandmother wasn't really taking medication, so like the medications that we're giving her, like she didn't like it. And I had brought her, like, we had like these chocolate covered pretzels, and I'm coming from the Puerto Rico market, so we have like these like guava cakes. And she was like, okay, I can get down with it. Why do I feel so brave? And seeing how it helped her after she would tell me, like, my grandmother used to tell me, like, if you ever smoke, like, if you even look at cannabis, like, you'll die. The devil will come out and take you. Don't ever do that. So to see her kind of accept it and say, hey, this is really medicine. Right. And like this really helped me. Right. And acknowledge, because it's through the testimony. Like you could read and you can have all these statistics, but it's the testimony that really drives and really has that connection. Yeah. So seeing her, like, I mean, who gets to say that? Like, yeah, I get high with my grandmother. Like it's that's my whole passion and drive. And to be able to give people a better quality of life, and then creating a pathway to like, yes, you can do it, because I did it. And yeah, it's like tough as shit, but like you can do it. And there's people that have opened the door, and then we can open the door for you. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, she really smoked grandma out, yo.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't smoke. Smoking, she still thinks it's
but she had grandma zooted.
She always, now for Thanksgiving, everybody, we kept going outside, and she was like, eso no, that's not medicinal. That's the bad one. I was like, Mima, everybody's different.
Like,
one day at a time.
Yeah.
You're like, abuela, bueno? Abuela was zooted.
Abuela, fumad, please. Just
now she sticks to her edibles.
Little puffer. Listen, I'm not mad at that. I got my mom onto using edibles for her back and hip pain as well. So she started out taking them when she would go to sleep, so she could actually make it through the night. And then that somehow turned into her popping them during the day also. So yeah, my mom was same situation. Yeah.
It's so amazing. I've seen so many people go to the dispensary, and shout out to our sponsor, Hardin, for giving us discounts. And people have been like, oh, I got to take this back for my mom. So to see that people are like, everybody's
my mom be like, bring me something back.
Yeah.
She like, if they got something different that I ain't got, bring something back for me.
Yeah, my mom goes to my swag. She'd be like, oh, what you got now?
The edibles are changing the game because it's, something that is, they can wrap their mind around it better, right? Yeah. And listen, at the end of the day, I'm personally a smoker, Corey is a smoker, but this is medicine. We want folks to get it any way that they feel comfortable consuming. If it helps them, the reality is that, especially your grandmother, my grandmother, I have a similar story about her consuming. She's also in Florida, from Puerto Rico. And yeah, my grandmother. And, there's a stigma there, right? And that's just the reality, is that we have to have a certain level of respect to understand that we can educate and want them to transform their mind as much as possible. But I think even getting as far as what you did and what I did, right, is like, and Corey, his mom, is empowering. They become a testimony, right? Maybe they talk to other folks that are in their age range and start to, so it takes a lot of work.
It does.
It takes so much work, but thank you.
And training the culture is the most amazing.
Yes.
shout out to Puerto Rico because they just dropped now the infused coquito. So if anybody goes to the island, yeah. So you tell a grand. I'm excited to see all the abuelas and the tias.
Yeah, I need that infused coquito.
Yeah,
and I need it in like a leftover rum bottle too. Don't make my shit fancy.
But listen, we don't have a lot of time, but I do want to say, just because we tied in Puerto Rico, and you know, as everyone knows here, right, Corey and I, we do own a dispensary in Jersey City. It is the first dispensary that has every certification in the state. LGBTQ.
We check all the boxes.
Minority owned, right, Afro Latina, disabled veteran, female, you name it, the whole gambit. And the Latin, I mean, I went to Puerto Rico recently, and I'm not going to get on my high horse, but the reality is that there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. Yeah. And Corey and I, in one of our previous episodes, we had talked a lot about if you don't have a recreational cannabis program and you have financial issues in your city or your state, what are you doing? So the work that you are doing is important because the reality is that Puerto Rico really needs this funding. I went recently. It is still a medical market, right? If they usher in that recreational market, there's a lot of funds there, a lot of tax revenue.
But again,
that could
education.
Support the country.
They have no idea how they can train. I mean, they thrive on hospitality.
Yes.
So you have now consumption lounges where you can train your restaurants, your front end, your back end, your hotels.
Yes.
I mean, we have casinos. It could be a Vegas in the Caribbean.
Yes.
But they don't know how it's going to have that economic system and how it's going to reinvest back into the community. That's why we got to continue to educate and push.
Continue to educate. Listen, Puerto Rico, I better see you with a recreational program very soon. Thank you, Mama, for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And I look forward to, charting all these charges with you.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. You guys already know we still in Vegas, and we are talking to all the movers and shakers that are doing big things in the cannabis industry. And today we got the pleasure of having Mr. Willie Mac, the CEO and co-founder of Frank White. It's an ancillary cannabis brand, got dope ass merch. I mean, the shit that you just pulled out a second ago is like the damn Christmas ornaments. Like
we gonna show it.
Leveling up the cannabis game, but please give it up for Willie Mac.
Thank you so much. So good to be here. Thank you guys.
Yes. So
happy Cannabis Week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you dab earlier? Or are you good?
I haven't smoked as much weed as I really need to. All right. It's a shame.
We gotta fix that.
We do.
Yeah. There's a dab break next door that everyone was like,
I'm coming.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. I was like, I respect that.
So tell me about Frank White. Tell me about the brand. Tell me about what you're doing. I know you're from DC, New York, right? You're bringing this to fruition with Biggie's son, CJ, Christopher Wallace. Tell me about the brand.
Yeah, so I met CJ like 2018-19, and he was like, I need to sort of understand I'm responsible, like I said, Christopher Wallace, not the Notorious B.I.G. Yeah. Notorious B.I.G. is a fictional character my dad created, and sadly he was killed when he was 24 and couldn't make any other ones. He's like, I have a responsibility to his legacy, but in order to do that, I need to know who he was, what was his hopes, what was his dreams. And I was like, right, like we don't talk about the young black man from a single mom from Brooklyn from the 70s, 80s, and 90s in New York who created this character and built this legacy and built this business and created this music. That nigga is the American genius. That is one of the biggest writers and poets and artists of our century, in the history of mankind. But we don't talk about him. We talk about the fictional character, and that's when CJ's understanding of that was like, how do I honor a man that I don't know? So I need to go on a journey to understand who he is. And this business has been an exploration of. So I told him, I'm like, how do I help you find your voice? Your dad's left a legacy. How can we work together to do what's right for our people? Start with we see the cannabis something that connects us all. It connects us from music, it connects us through culture, it connects us from jazz to every genre of music. The ultimate ghostwriter, it helped create so much music but was never given credit for that shit. And we're like, we have a foundation that we can talk about these things, and how do we fight for justice? How do we fight for people who've been arrested? How do we use this platform, and what would your dad do if he was alive to honor his legacy, but in your own way, and to do it in a way that also elevates the conversation, shifts the conversation around from being lazy stoners. It's like, that's some bullshit. We all know that.
Yeah.
So let's create beautiful things. We live in a world where I want my cannabis products to be next to my watches and my candles and my cultivator books and like as I travel. This is the world that we all aspire to live in, and it's the world his dad helped us sort of like imagine and create. Like let's imagine and create something bigger within this space that also is 100% Black, inherently part of our culture, celebrating our culture, celebrating Black culture and creativity. Like I'm like, well, let's start with your dad, and then we'll work with your mom, and then we'll go down the line. And how do we like really honor and inspire the next generation to be like, oh yeah, Biggie was actually a kid from Brooklyn who was a single mom, who was an immigrant from Jamaica in the 80s and 90s and 70s, 80s and 90s in New York, and that nigga did this shit, like, and he did this, he died at 24, like, oh, hold on, that motherfucker, I want to know more about him.
Yeah.
How did he do that?
Right.
So, how do we do that? How do we fight for what's right in terms of justice and, change laws and all that stuff? So, yeah.
One thing that I love that you said, I'm a watch person. See, I got a nice fancy little Tissot on right now.
That's nice.
And I'm all about nice fancy things, so is Corey. And this candle that you see that we have burning
slightly
here.
Bougie, thank you. Remember my pronouns, bad bitch? So.
What are they again?
Bad bitch.
Bad bitch.
Those are his pronouns.
Yeah, that's my pronouns, bad bitch.
I respect that.
You respect it?
Yes.
This candle is phenomenal.
Hold the candle up so that
Not
it
only
smells really good.
Not only smells wonderful, but very elegant looking, which that's another thing, our brand that we have. Listen, it's not strong. It's like perfect. And you had said earlier, like, it's definitely something that you can like mellow out to, play some jazz, but it's called Frank White, right?
Yeah.
So I talk about that jazz, right, and that type of elegance.
And the name of the actual candle is Unbothered. Because you know what, it says it all in its own.
Yes. Oh my God, it smells wonderful.
And this candle is vegan, soy, hand poured in Canada, and it's all natural. What's great about it is the wick we use burns really slow, so it's not a candle for like light. It's a candle for a slow burn that turns into oil and wax that then sort of rehardens. But it gives you we did that because we wanted the sort of aroma to burn slowly, but also kind of fill the room.
Yeah.
So it becomes
It's like aromatherapy.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. And sometimes when those smells are too potent, it gives you a headache.
Yes.
Right. So we want to have the opposite effect. But what I love about it is that your products are just they have such an elegant look.
Thank you.
Why Frank White? Because when we go back and we talk about Biggie, right? Like he had a lot of personas.
Yes.
Why that one in particular?
So for a couple of reasons. One, CJ's like, Todd Broussard, our other co-founder, and the man who raised CJ, so his dad, my father he's known. He's like, my dad used to remind me, like, who Frank White is? He heard the music, because he found out who his real dad was around 6 or 7, so that's a head trip. But then was like, okay, that's crazy. And then was like introduced to music over time as he got older, and his dad was like, don't forget about Frank White. He's like, who's Frank White? And he's like, I like the fact that I didn't know what it was. I had to research it. And it was like a no name, like a John Doe, like a name that wasn't real. Then I started researching it as a kid, and I was like that, and I kind of stored the back of my mind. CJ said, as like I want to use that name someday, and he's like, why is no one ever using it? I don't understand like what's going on. And then when I first met him, after like we started working together, he's like, this, I'm called the brand Frank White, and I was like, and I just kind of like went pale face, like, you know what it is? I was like, that's the most amazing. I'm like, I'm really good at branding and a lot of stuff. I've been okay with names. That would be like that. Wow. Like,
Right.
I love that. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Because I grew up with that movie and all of it. So, and then just all of the story behind it. But what's interesting is, over the last few years, we're shooting a documentary right now. And we're working with Time Studios on the documentary. And it's CJ's quest to understand who his father is. He's like, in order to do right by this man, I need to know what his hopes and dreams and wishes were. And I was 5 months when he died, so I have no memory of this guy. Yeah, crazy shit.
That's such a... That's real... That's super heavy. But I don't even... How do you live up to that? You know what I'm saying?
And this is when we first met, there were two things we talked about. I asked him, I was like, why do you want to do this? You can do everything or nothing.
Yeah.
He's like, my younger brother, Ryder, was born on the spectrum. My mom and my dad, we never wanted to use pharmaceuticals, so cannabis has been part of my life as a kid. He was nonverbal, so I would test products to see how they would affect him, so I could know what the dosage was. Some was right, sometimes it didn't work. It was part of a process. So I got to understand cannabis from a medicine, and I want to help more families like mine. My grandmother dealing with like various cancer, like other family members with pain, but we're all using it, medicating it, but ourselves undiagnosed as a society, like we should talk about this. And,
Yes.
and if my dad was alive, he'd be bigger than Snoop. I mean, he's a fucking, I'm like, no pun intended. I'm like, he's a notorious fucking weed smoker. Like, that's not. So he's like, it just felt like this is the right thing to do. And we started to talk about, well, how do we do this? What do we build? And yeah, it's been a really interesting process to think about, like, how do you create. Because I told him, if I help you work on this, my question to you is, what legacy do you want to leave for your kids?
Yeah.
Because that's all you should be thinking about.
Yeah.
Because your dad's over here, and that's not going anywhere. And your
Right.
sister will manage that at some point in time.
Right.
But like, what is your voice? What do you want to be as an artist, as a creative, as an actor, as an entrepreneur, as a social justice? How do you find what you want? And I can help you. How do we all help you navigate that space?
Right.
And create something that we all join forces. Like, these are things that matter to all of us. Getting niggas out of jail, legalizing weed, making a bunch of money, doing some dope shit, working with great people, keeping it, just being, not making it complicated.
Yeah. Listen, the reality is that it's tremendous pressure, right? It's tremendous pressure, but I think I really commend you for coming in and giving him that space to say, yes, you're carrying your father's, the torch to his legacy, but also you are creating your own. So you can bring him a part of that journey with you, but what is your voice? And sometimes it takes folks like you, mentors, people.
His grandmother, his parents have just always been like, his grandmother was like, whatever you do, and make sure you're doing it for you. That's what you want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're all here, that's what we hopefully all are getting from various people in our lives on our journeys around how do we support each other, and that's what our communities had to do.
But so many of us are not.
Yes.
And especially in our community.
Yes.
So that's why I do have to, commend you particularly, because a lot of black men are not taking young black men and saying, this is the guidance, let me help you.
Here's these fucking cheat codes. Let's make it easier for you guys.
Yes, I already went through it, right?
You don't have cheat codes. I'm not getting mad at you to do it faster. Do it faster, make us all fucking rich. Let's all fucking say, help the next ones.
I love that mindset.
That's, come on, let's go.
I love it.
I want your life to be easier than mine. This shit's been hard.
Yes.
I don't want you to do all this shit. Take these cheat codes and make that shit easier. How can I help?
I love it.
That's it.
Now, before we finish up, I do want to show some more of the stuff, though, because the side profile logo is fly to me.
Okay.
This is the grinder.
This is the grinder. Magnets.
Okay. God damn.
Now, I have a grinder similar to that, but that one's big. That's a good size.
Well, there's a bigger one we had, but somebody took it at the party, so they saw that shit and was like,
run that.
No.
Listen, that just means you got good shit when they want to steal it.
Yeah, that's... And can we see, because it is about to be Christmas.
You got the Christmas.
So,
Christmas.
Yeah. That's super fly.
We're going to jewelry too. Put up your neck. Put it on the chain.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
Listen.
Oh, shit. And we got the Frank White.
Yep.
The Big Apple. Mm-hmm. Let's go.
2 chains, 3 chains. Yeah.
Pull this up a little bit. There you go. Ooh. Yeah, that's the joy.
Drip. Listen. Thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you guys for having me here. So nice. Happy holidays.
I love stories like this. I love brands, branding. Like we talk about this all the time. Branding.
We talk about branding.
Yeah, I love branding. I love great branding.
First of all, you guys did a great job with the name. So congratulations on that. That shit's fucking hard.
Thank you.
And the logo and the design. I want to go to. Where's the coffee shop? Is there coffee here? I don't even drink coffee, but I could have a cup. Ice, maybe like a cold brew or some shit.
So typically we do. we have the whole situation. We also smoke blunts, but we film it in Jersey. We have a dispensary in Jersey City.
Let's get that shit in the dispensary.
And we also have a consumption lounge. So we will definitely.
And our next door neighbor is a coffee shop.
And our next door neighbor is a coffee shop.
So it all works.
When we get back home,
I'll bring CJ in. We'll have CJ come by. We'll do the whole thing.
Let's do it.
Smoke some blunts, drink some coffee.
Let's do it the real way.
Yeah.
But right now we in Vegas.
Let's go.
And we having a great time. Shout out to M4MM for having us.
Thank you,
We're
Roz.
Shout out to Roz.
Podcast partner, and they are just always bringing us together. Right? This is social capital.
Yes.
Networking, building relationship building, authentic relationship building, and also just not gatekeeping, right? And that's exactly what you're not doing with CJ. You're making sure you're giving all the cheat codes and helping to have a better path in life.
Exactly. I want to shout out MCBA. I want to shout out Brandon and Todd for coming out tonight. All the MCBA crew. Support us. We're fucking out here fighting on the front lines for getting as many minorities into the cannabis business as possible.
MCBA.
Minority Cannabis Business Association.
Yeah.
And then shout out BCB Mastermind.
Sorry, go ahead, bro.
And then shout out BCB Mastermind.
BCB Mastermind, yes. So you might get to talk to me.
Yes.
It's an amazing program.
You said MCBA.
Yeah, the Minority Cannabis.
We got Mike over there, right?
Yep.
Mike Lamoto.
Is Mike in the CBA? Yeah.
We got
Todd and Brandon and Kaliko and Jessica and Frederica, all those guys.
Yes, that is an incredible organization.
You have the magazine next to you.
Woo!
Forget about that. You want to give them a little sneak peek? Just flip out your favorite ad, Microdose.
Well, first off, this in the back is supposed to be Microsoft. This is Microdose.
Read the bottom of the back. Read the bottom. Over there.
QR code, how to shop from your phone. Visit Tree Trunk.
And then this one over here.
Microdosing mushrooms.
I like the one that's supposed to be Newport, but it's New Pot.
This actual magazine. Like, what is it?
Blazed and Confused.
But this is...
We made this. Our creative director, this is something...
No, show that one to the camera. The New Pot, which is supposed to be like a Newport ad, but it's New Pot.
And the blueberry?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to show this. One of my favorites is this one.
This is hilarious.
Alexander McWeed.
So these are obviously brands that exist.
No, they don't exist.
They're like satire.
Oh, yeah.
They don't. This is, satire of the brands. So
Louis
you got to
Hyton.
see it up close to really, really get it. But it's
Louis
hilarious. Louis Hyton, Microdose. This is dope. You guys created, you have a creative director who's created every single one of these pieces?
There's about 3 or 4 magazines. We're working on a new issue.
Okay.
They're coffee table books. We're gonna increase the number of pages, increase they're when you flip
Where
through
can
it.
people get this?
You can get it on frankwhite.co, and
Okay.
we're gonna get it on Tree Trunk as well.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll let you know when they're back in stock, because they keep
All
going
right.
away.
Yeah, you definitely need to get these out. This is fire. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
We
Willie.
appreciate
My
you.
pleasure.
All right. So we gonna keep it going. Like we said, we in Vegas, we partying. We got a couple more guests that's gonna come through. Make sure you go shop Frank White, support black-owned businesses. Shout out M4MM. You might see that on my tree this year, or you might see it on my neck.
Your neck's coming out in the spring, so look out for it. We got a whole diamond covered in beautiful diamonds.
All right. Well, we'll see
Thank
you
you guys
soon.
so much.
All right.
Peace.
Peace out.
Yeah, we are back, and we are still in Vegas, and we get it turned up. Listen, but we gonna get real serious real quick, because we have Lakisha, excuse me, is the national director of Project Queensland, but she's also an attorney, black woman, okay? Obviously, it only makes sense as an attorney that your concern is expungement. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that word. I want you, this project is obviously associated with M4MM. So
Absolutely.
that is your role, that you're part of this organization. Can you just share with our viewers a little bit more what you do in the expungement space?
Absolutely. Of course, everyone's heard of M4MM. I'm not going to go into my shameless spill of my wonderful organization that I'm a part of. But Project Clean Slate, Rod saw a need where, of course, our communities, black, brown, any underserved community, you see where this systemic thing was happening, where states are coming online, they're legalizing in some form or fashion, medical or recreational, and yet there are people walking around with charges, old charges,
Right.
that no one has cared about what happens to them. So I always tell people I believe in the African proverb, Sankofa, and you reach back for that which is lost. If we've got people who look different from us making billions in this space over a product that was previously illegal, we need to change those laws. We need to help those. We need to go back and say, hey, we know that what you did in the past was wrong at the time according to the law, but now the law has changed.
Yep.
We have to also look at who has been negatively impacted. And people think, oh, well, it's just a drug charge. It could be anything. It could be 2 joints up to pulling weight. They put you in weight.
Say what it is.
But
Trapping.
right. But at the same token, I look at those people in, maybe it's my advocacy eye, as I call it. I look at those people and I'm like, okay, you did them wrong. This war on drugs is bogus. You're now making money and profiting off of it. So you need to go back and get this off of their records, right? And then I look at them in another way as subject matter experts, because they've been there in the legacy market all this time. They can tell us, obviously they had a lot of repeat customers to get in the bind that they were in, so they know what sells and what doesn't. And I think that that's good to have that kind of, expertise in the house. So, yeah.
What do you think that we need to do to start to value the legacy market's voice more, right? Because there is this notion that if you were trapping or you were a corner boy or whatever sort of language you want to use for that, right? That you don't have the business acumen, that you don't have the language, that you don't have so many of the resources and the access necessary to do this thing, but at the same time, they really do have the experience. They really are the SMEs of this world.
Right.
But people still don't give them the credit and a seat at the table to add value with the information that they do have. What do you think that we need to get across to everyone so that we can do this work better and really amplify more voices?
I think that people, they look at it as, oh, you were selling drugs, you're this horrible person, this stigma, whatever. This whole war on drugs thing is a social economic issue. If they had other opportunities, have been exposed to other avenues or methods of making, a legitimate living that could provide for their family, then maybe they would not have that issue, right? And a lot of times, we have to give the shout outs to the one or two people like my brother Tahir Johnson, who's partnered with Simply Pure.
Jersey.
Yes.
Big Jersey.
I mean,
Big Jersey.
he actually had a cannabis conviction, but he also worked on Wall Street. And you're looking at those anomalies of how this person just navigated their way. And he actually confessed how he was ashamed to say, I had this charge on my record, because it would make others in a professional setting view them differently. We need more than one person that makes it through that, from that legacy to that legal. And that's why that M4MM is so important. We amplify this. We have so many people that we get to go out in the community and interact with. And I mean, we want to pull them into our network because most of them do want to work in cannabis, right? And even if they don't, they want to get this blight off their record because, it affects you getting a job, where you can live. Up until a little bit ago, according to Title VII, you could not get student loan money to go to school. You couldn't get grants. So, I mean, in every way, it's that same oppression on our communities, and we have to be that voice and advocate and say, you know what? I'm so glad you legalized this. I'm so glad that we have this alternative medicine. I'm so glad that we have this plant that we can use with our born with endocannabinoid system. However, you remember when you convicted a boy? Yeah. You gotta fix that.
Yeah.
You gotta.
No, that's dope. Speaking of Sankofa, got one tattoo right here.
Right.
On my arm.
Right. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I had no idea you had this.
Yeah, so it was just funny when you brought it up. I was like, I got Sankofa right there.
Oh my goodness.
But and I think a lot of it too is when we talk about people with some of these drug charges, some of it's just pure luck, right? Like I remember when I was in college, full ride scholarship to Rutgers for engineering, went to a house party, we're smoking, we leave the house party, we're in the car, we're smoking weed. Luckily, my cousin was in the car with us, who's a auto body guy. He know everything about cars. Cop pulls us over. We have a lit blunt at that moment.
Ouch.
Cop comes up, it smells like weed in the car. There's no weed in the car, officer. Well, we just shut down that house party and there's plenty of weed in there. We were in the house party, you're smelling it on our clothes. Oh, well, you can check the car, but ain't no weed in the car. Cop does, a little looky, all that stuff. Lets us go. As soon as he walked away, I look at my cousin, where the hell did that weed go?
Right.
Where did that blunt go?
Right.
Because there was a lit blunt when he pulled us over.
So that means it was good weed.
Yeah. And my cousin literally, the little plastic, this back, I had a Dodge Neon, this was back in the day. The little plastic strip between the two windows like that, he popped the plastic off, put the blunt there and popped it back on real quick.
I love
Because he knew that them old cheap cars are like Legos, like everything pops.
Yeah.
So as soon as the dude came, he, must have killed the cherry, popped it, threw it in, popped it, the cop pulled up and was like, There ain't no weed in the car.
That's hilarious.
That's just luck. That's the difference of me graduating from engineering school,
Right.
keeping my scholarship,
Right.
being able to have a lot of the different jobs I had, which all require background checks. Just luck.
Could have ruined your whole life.
Could have fucked the whole thing up.
Yep.
So yeah, like
It's
that.
fucking serious.
So that's why when you're talking about coming back and expunging and removing these things off people's records, like the damage is already done.
Right.
So it being on their record or not is really a moot point at this point. From a negative standpoint, the damage of it being on their records already happened.
Right.
Now the only grace that the politicians and the courts can give is at least take it off my record so I can try to move forward now.
Right.
Whether the person lost 5 years of time, 10 years of time, 20 years of time of being able to be a more productive citizen in the community, through
And
jobs,
just
or school.
provide for their family.
Of course,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You would not believe how much less someone makes just because of a certain set of circumstances.
Yeah, listen, I was selling weed to the whole Rutgers football team. Good gentlemen, good young men. They just needed a different type of painkiller. Until, listen, I tell you, this is why I quit selling weed. Selling weed to the whole, I'm in the same apartment complex as all the Rutgers football players. And we selling our little 20 sacks. By the way, I was shorting them cats. I was selling them .8s. Anyway,
My goodness.
I was selling .8s for 20, and it was good. It was repeat customers. I don't know how they was passing their drug test, but they was. But a random white geeky dude called my cell phone, asked me for weed. Hey, is Corey there? Yeah, man, I need to buy something. I'm like, nah, you got the wrong phone, homie. Got out the phone, looked at my roommate, dog, we done. He was like, what?
That's it.
I was like, we just gonna smoke this shit. I was like, a random dude that I know I don't know
Yep.
Right.
called me from another campus, knew my name, and we're done.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a wrap.
Yeah.
But yeah, just dumb luck is the difference,
Right.
So no, it's just poignant to what you were saying with the Sankofa and reaching back and trying to clean up some of the damage that has been done.
Right.
Yeah, that work is really important, especially because sometimes folks look at it as, well, it already happened, and some people are successful in navigating, like to hear, right? What is the point? So I think it's important for us to go into that because you mentioned a little bit of it, and again, we talk about education on this podcast all the time. I work as a professor, so it's critical in this space. People don't know that a lot of these issues, sometimes you can't get federal aid.
Right.
That is just one hindrance. Tell me more about why this is so
I've
important.
got a couple more. If you got your conviction and you're a veteran, you can lose those benefits, those veteran benefits, because you have something, it's all under the federal government, you're charged with a federal crime. So we help them get their benefits reinstated.
That's
also,
incredible.
except for maybe 2 states, I know Vermont is one of them. When you get a conviction on your record and you're still on paper, as they say, you're paying court fees or parole or probation or whatever you're paying, you're on paper, you still can't vote.
Oh, good.
And given this current climate, I mean,
That's a big deal.
yes,
It's a huge
yes,
deal.
Yes.
Well, here's another weird one that some people don't think about now. My lifestyle. In certain states, you lose your right to bear arms also. You
Yes.
can't get your gun purchasing permit or gun pairing permit because of that on your record.
Yeah.
So
So it affects them, and that's one of the other wraparound services that we do is where, are you a registered voter? Listen, I'm not telling you who to vote for, although I would love to, but I did the same thing when I lived in Dallas. I was a deputy registrar. I registered folks to vote. I've worked the polls. I've been out there with the signs, giving out all the push cards, whatever we gotta do. But you have to actively participate in this political market, this whole thing. Just vote, people. Hold your legislators accountable because, they influence so much of our lives. Yeah. If you look at it, and I will tell you, in Louisiana from 2015, I've seen how the cannabis space has evolved slightly.
Yeah.
But just first getting it legalized, then going back and saying, hey, it's not just for these debilitating diseases. and then go back again the next session and say, hey, to your legislator, well, there's only like a handful of doctors prescribing in this state. We need more doctors. We got patients that might need this. Okay, now any doctor that can prescribe the controlled drug substance can recommend medical marijuana. So, I mean, just seeing it evolve, and then they eventually got to like having flower. They were doing topicals and tinctures, things of that nature, but now we've got metered dose inhalers and flower, and so, and moving into the medical space. So that's all affecting that person, whether or not they have it legal in their state and they can actively use it for whatever purposes that they need. It also affects, you know, the folks that make decisions on your behalf in Congress. So if you're constantly not going home, you are voting.
Yeah.
You know, because every election have consequences.
Yeah, that's very
So
true.
yeah, and we want you to participate actively.
And we're coming up on some big things soon, right? So we definitely need to mobilize people,
Right.
get their voices heard, but then also continue to do this expungement work, right?
Absolutely.
So that we could have those that have been, you know, basically exiled out of the voting process in this nation. That is so critical. We want them to get jobs. We want them to get funding for school. We want them to have the right to bear arms. But, you know, I think that that's really the most important component. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. And I just want to give a huge shout out to Hawthorne. Hawthorne is big in irrigation and soil nutrients. They're with Scott's Fertilizer. And they have been, from day one, our supporter for Project Clean Slate.
That's great.
And their team, they are doing what all companies, we should require of all, to just be, you know, responsible, socially equitable, and just be around the community and care about your community.
Right.
So then when you see those social injustices, you act,
Yeah.
not just with words, but with deeds. So
Yes.
I'm excited.
Well, thank you for all that you are doing.
Yes.
That is going to be it for this party, because I'm trying to turn up and I'm trying to smoke a blunt. They've been depriving me. Corey, why you been depriving me?
And there's
I
a
really
dab
have.
bar. Did you know there's a dab
You know,
bar?
you're the second person to come here and tell
There
me
is
this.
a dab bar.
And I've been deprived
And
of
you
the
know what,
dab
let me
bar,
tell
too.
you, after that, I think you should, you know, consume how you want to consume on the patio. Come in and we'll have a nice warm churro drizzled in caramel.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
I know, this has turned into a different type of podcast.
I know. We gotta go. All right. M4MM, Vegas, Dice Mixer. You already know the official podcast partner, Coffee and Cannabis. We came all the way from Jersey to Vegas to bring y'all the best of the best, all right? Thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll see you guys all next time. Peace.